Imagine a young boy, just 12 years old, risking his life to save a stranger's child in the dead of night. A single act of bravery sparks a chain of events that unravels secrets, corruption, and danger in the heart of a bustling city. But this isn't just a story about survival. It's a tale of courage, resilience, and the fight for justice. What would you do if faced with a choice that could change your life forever? Stay tuned, because this story will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very last moment. Welcome to True Story 102, where extraordinary stories come to life. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single second of this gripping journey. The streets of Greystone were lined with old, crumbling buildings and flickering streetlights, casting long shadows over narrow alleys. For 12-year-old Alex Carter, these streets were more than home. They were his battlefield. Every day was a fight for survival, not just for himself, but for his little sister, Emma, who clung to him like a lifeline since their parents passed away 2 years ago. Alex was no ordinary kid. Beneath his unassuming exterior and tattered hoodie was a sharp mind and a heart brimming with courage. He spent his days collecting scrap metal and fixing broken gadgets to sell. But his real talent lay in his uncanny ability to solve problems no one else could, earning him the nickname Fixer among the locals. One fateful evening, Alex was on his way back from the junkyard when he heard a commotion near the park. A black SUV had swerved off the road, its front end smashed against a tree. A panicked woman was crying out, struggling to pull a baby from the back seat as smoke began to billow from the engine. Without hesitation, Alex dropped his bag and sprinted toward the scene. The woman, dressed in an expensive coat, froze in fear as flames licked the edges of the hood. Alex's voice cut through the chaos. "Give me the baby. I'll get him out!" The woman handed over the child, her hands trembling. Alex moved with the precision of someone far beyond his years. Wrapping the baby in his jacket, he darted away from the vehicle just as the engine exploded into a fiery blaze. The force of the blast threw him to the ground, but he shielded the child with his body, his mind racing to calculate their next move. When the smoke cleared, the woman rushed to his side, sobbing with relief. "You saved him! You saved my son!" Alex handed the baby back, brushing soot from his face. "Just doing what needed to be done," he said, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. Unbeknownst to Alex, the woman was Meredith Caldwell, wife of one of the wealthiest real estate tycoons in the city. That night, as she recounted the incident to her husband, Ryan Caldwell, the millionaire couldn't shake the image of the brave boy who had risked his life for their child. "Find him." Ryan ordered his assistant the next morning. "I need to thank him personally." The morning after the rescue, Alex Carter returned to his daily grind as if nothing extraordinary had happened. To him, saving a life wasn't an act of heroism. It was simply the right thing to do. He had no idea that his actions the night before had set wheels in motion that would change his life forever. Alex was in the back of an old workshop on Elm Street, repairing a broken radio for a regular customer. His hands moved deftly, soldering loose wires while Emma sat nearby, drawing pictures on scraps of paper. "Do you think we'll ever get out of here, Alex?" Emma asked, her big hopeful eyes fixed on her older brother. Alex paused, his brow furrowing. "Someday," he said softly, "but for now, we just have to keep going. One step at a time." Just as he finished his sentence, the shop door creaked open, and in walked a man in a crisp gray suit. His polished shoes clicked against the worn wooden floor as he looked around the humble space. Alex immediately tensed. Men in suits rarely brought good news in Greystone. "Are you Alex Carter?" the man asked, his deep voice echoing in the small room. Alex set the radio down and stood protectively in front of Emma. "Who's asking?" The man extended a business card, his expression unreadable. My name is William Hunt. I work for Ryan Caldwell. He'd like to meet you." Alex blinked in surprise. "Ryan Caldwell? The real estate guy?" William nodded. "Mr. Caldwell wishes to thank you personally for saving his son's life. He'd like to invite you to his home this afternoon." Alex hesitated. The idea of walking into the mansion of a millionaire felt like stepping into a different world, one he didn't belong in, but he also knew that refusing an invitation like this might not be wise. "Okay," Alex finally said, "but my sister comes with me." William glanced at Emma and nodded. "Of course. I'll have a car pick you up at 2. As the man left, Emma tugged on Alex's sleeve, her voice filled with excitement. "Alex, do you think they'll have food? Like real food?" Alex chuckled, ruffling her hair. "Probably. But let's not get our hopes up too high." At precisely 2 o'clock, a sleek black car pulled up in front of their building. Alex and Emma climbed inside, their nervousness barely concealed. The drive took them out of Greystone's decaying streets and into the pristine neighborhoods of Maple Ridge, where the houses were larger than anything they'd ever seen. The Caldwell mansion was a sprawling estate surrounded by manicured lawns and a towering iron gate. As the car pulled into the driveway, Alex's stomach twisted with unease. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he knew one thing. He couldn't let anyone look down on him or Emma. William escorted them inside, where Meredith Caldwell greeted them with a warm smile. "You must be Alex," she said, bending slightly to meet his eye level. "And this must be your sister. Thank you for coming." Alex nodded politely, keeping a firm grip on Emma's hand. "You said Mr. Caldwell wanted to see me." Meredith gestured toward the grand living room, where Ryan Caldwell stood by the fireplace. The man exuded an air of authority, but his expression softened when he saw Alex. "Alex," Ryan said, extending a hand, "I've heard so much about you. Thank you for saving my son." Alex shook his hand, his grip firm despite the nerves coursing through him. "I just did what anyone would done," Ryan smiled faintly. "You'd be surprised how many wouldn't. You showed incredible bravery, and I'd like to repay you for that." Alex stiffened. "We don't need charity." Ryan raised an eyebrow, impressed by the boy's pride. "It's not charity. It's gratitude. But before we talk about that, why don't you and your sister join us for lunch?" The dining room was a spectacle of luxury. Crystal chandeliers, fine china, and a table laden with more food than Alex and Emma had seen in months. Emma's eyes widened in amazement. But Alex kept his guard up, wary of what strings might be attached to this generosity. As they ate, Ryan observed Alex closely, noting the sharp intelligence in his eyes and the way he looked out for his sister. There was something about the boy that reminded him of himself at that age, determined, resourceful, and unwilling to back down from a challenge. After lunch, Ryan led Alex to his private study, leaving Emma in the care of Meredith. The room was lined with bookshelves and filled with the scent of polished wood. Ryan gestured for Alex to sit. "You're a remarkable kid, Alex," Ryan began. "I have built my career on spotting potential, and I see a lot of it in you. Tell me, what do you want out of life?" Alex hesitated, caught off guard by the question. "I just want to take care of my sister. Make sure she has a chance at something better," Ryan nodded, his respect for the boy growing. "That's admirable, and I'd like to help you achieve that. But I need to know, are you willing to take risks for the people you care about?" Alex met his gaze, his expression unwavering. "I already do." Ryan leaned back in his chair, a smile playing on his lips. "Good, because I think you and I can help each other." Alex sat stiffly in a leather chair, his eyes locked on Ryan Caldwell. The man's words echoed in his mind. "We can help each other." Alex didn't trust easily, especially not someone as powerful as Ryan. But something about the man's tone suggested this wasn't just a favor. This was an opportunity. What do you mean? Alex asked cautiously. Ryan steepled his fingers, leaning forward. I've built my career on making deals, Alex. I know talent when I see it. You're no ordinary kid. You saved my son without hesitation, but more than that, I can tell you're sharp. Resourceful. The kind of person who doesn't back down. Alex frowned. That's nice of you to say, but I don't see how that helps me and Emma. Ryan smiled faintly. What if I told you I could give you a chance to change your life? A real chance. Not charity, not a handout. An opportunity to use that sharp mind of yours? Alex's instinct was to say no, but he thought of Emma sitting in the dining room, her eyes lighting up at the sight of food she'd never dared to dream of. He couldn't let his pride get in the way of giving her a better life. What kind of opportunity? Alex asked, his voice guarded. Ryan reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. I have a problem. A big one. There's a development project in the city that's been sabotaged, deliberately delayed by people who don't want it to succeed. My company is losing millions because of it. What does that have to do with me? Alex asked, confused. You know the streets, the people, the way the city works, Ryan said. I need someone who can find out who's behind this. Someone who can move unnoticed, who's smart enough to figure out the truth and brave enough to face it. And from what I've seen, that someone is you. Alex stared at him, incredulous. You want me to be your spy? Ryan chuckled. Spy is a strong word. Think of it as a partnership. You help me solve this problem, and I'll make sure you and your sister are taken care of. School, housing, everything you need to build a future. Alex's mind raced. The offer was tempting, but it also sounded dangerous. Why not hire a private investigator or someone older? Because they don't have what you have, Ryan said firmly. Access. You're part of this city's undercurrent. You know the people I can't reach, the places I can't go. And let's be honest, Alex, you're not afraid to get your hands dirty if it means protecting the people you care about. Alex couldn't argue with that. He had done things he wasn't proud of to keep Emma safe. But this was different. This was stepping into a world he didn't fully understand, with risks he couldn't predict. I'll think about it, Alex said finally. Ryan nodded, as if he'd expected that answer. Fair enough. Take your time. But while you're thinking, I want you to consider this. People like us don't get handed chances like this every day. Sometimes the risk is worth it. That night, back in their small apartment in Greystone, Alex couldn't sleep. Emma was curled up next to him, her breathing soft and even. But his mind was a storm of questions. Was this really an opportunity, or was Ryan just using him? Could he trust the man? And most importantly, was it worth the risk? The next morning, as Alex was working on a broken toaster, a familiar face appeared at the door. It was William Hunt, Ryan's assistant. Alex, William said, stepping inside. Mr. Caldwell asked me to give you this. He handed Alex a small envelope. Inside was a photograph of a construction site and a single name written on the back. Derek Malone. Beneath it, in bold letters, were the words, Start here. Alex stared at the photo, his jaw tightening. He didn't need to be told what this meant. Ryan was giving him a push, a way to start digging if he chose to accept the offer. Alex felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. This wasn't just a job. It was a test. Tell Mr. Caldwell I'll do it, Alex said finally, his voice steady. William nodded, a faint smile on his lips. He'll be pleased to hear that. Alex spent the next few days gathering information. Derek Malone, he discovered, was a foreman at the construction site who had recently been fired under suspicious circumstances. Alex made it his mission to find Malone, but the man was elusive. It wasn't until Alex ventured into a seedy bar near the docks that he spotted him. A burly man with a weathered face and shifty eyes. Alex took a deep breath, and approached him. "Mr. Malone." The man glanced up, his expression wary. "Who was asking?" "I just want to talk," Alex said. "About the Caldwell project." Malone's eyes narrowed, and he stood abruptly, towering over Alex. "I don't know who you are, kid, but you've got no business sticking your nose where it doesn't belong." "I'm not here to cause trouble," Alex said, keeping his voice calm. "I just want to know the truth. Why were you fired?" Malone hesitated, his eyes darting around the room. Finally, he leaned closer and muttered, "You're in over your head, kid. You're in over your head, kid. Walk away before you get hurt." But Alex wasn't backing down. "I can't. And if you know something, you need to tell me." Malone sighed, his tough exterior cracking just slightly. "Fine, but not here. Meet me at the docks tonight. Midnight." The night air at the docks was heavy with the smell of salt and oil. The distant hum of engines and the occasional call of a seagull were the only sounds as Alex made his way to the meeting point. The shadows seemed to stretch and move, making him hyper-aware of every creak and rustle. Alex had lived on the edge for most of his life, but this was different. This was the kind of danger that could swallow him whole if he wasn't careful. He arrived at an abandoned warehouse, its windows shattered and walls covered in graffiti. Derek Malone was waiting for him, standing in the dim glow of a single street lamp. His broad shoulders were hunched and his hands were shoved deep into his jacket pockets. "You came," Malone muttered, glancing around nervously. "You've got guts, kid. I'll give you that." Alex crossed his arms, keeping his distance. "You said you'd tell me what you know. I'm here. Start talking." Malone hesitated, his eyes darting toward the shadows. "I was fired because I asked too many questions," he said finally. "The Caldwell project, it's not what it seemed. Someone's been sabotaging it from the inside, and they didn't like me poking around." "Who's behind it?" Alex pressed. "That's the thing," Malone said, his voice low. "I don't know. But I do know this, whoever it is, they're dangerous. They've got connections everywhere. Cops, city officials, even some of the workers on the site. They'll do whatever it takes to keep their operation running." Alex's stomach tightened. "What kind of operation?" Malone's face darkened. "Smuggling, drugs, weapons, you name it. They're using the construction site as a front. And the Caldwell project? It's in their way. If Ryan Caldwell finishes that development, it'll cut off one of their main routes." Alex's mind raced. This was bigger than he'd imagined, bigger than him. But he couldn't back out now, not when people's lives were at stake. "Do you have proof?" Alex asked. Malone hesitated again, then pulled out a crumpled envelope from his pocket. "This is all I've got. Documents, photos, enough to get you started. But be careful, kid. Once you've seen this, you're a target." Alex took the envelope, his hands trembling slightly. "Why are you helping me?" Malone let out a bitter laugh. "'Cause I've got nothing left to lose. And maybe I don't want to see another kid get caught in this mess." Before Alex could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Malone's head snapped up, his face pale. "They found us," he hissed. "Run." But it was too late. Figures emerged from the shadows. 3 men dressed in dark clothes, their faces obscured. One of them stepped forward, a menacing grin on his face. "Malone," the man said, his voice dripping with malice. "You should have kept your mouth shut." Malone shoved Alex toward the door. "Go! Now!" Alex hesitated, torn between fleeing and helping Malone. But the older man gave him a hard shove. "You can't help me, kid. Get out of here!" Clutching the envelope, Alex darted out of the warehouse and into the night. He heard the sounds of a struggle behind him. Shouts, crashes, and then silence. His heart pounded as he ran, his legs burning with the effort. He didn't stop until he was far from the docks, collapsing against a wall in a dark alley. Back at their apartment, Alex locked the door and sat at the table, his hands shaking as he opened the envelope. Inside were grainy photos of crates being loaded onto trucks at the construction site, documents with names and numbers, and a map showing routes through the city. It was clear evidence of the smuggling operation Malone had described. Emma stirred from the couch, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Alex, what's going on?" Alex quickly hid the envelope, forcing a smile. "Nothing, then? Just working on something?" She frowned but didn't push further, returning to her makeshift bed. Alex watched her for a moment, his chest tightening. He couldn't let anything happen to her. Whatever danger he was in, he had to keep her safe. The next morning, Alex contacted Ryan Caldwell. They met in a quiet cafe, far from prying eyes. Alex slid the envelope across the table, his voice low. "Malone gave me this. It's everything he had." Ryan opened the envelope, his expression darkening as he scanned the contents. "This is worse than I thought," he muttered. "These people, they're not just criminals. They're organized, ruthless." "What do we do?" Alex asked. Ryan looked at him, a spark of determination in his eyes. "We expose them. But we need more than this. We need solid, undeniable proof. And I'm going to need your help to get it." Alex nodded, his fear eclipsed by a sense of purpose. "I'm in over the next few weeks." Alex worked alongside Ryan, gathering information and uncovering the network behind the smuggling operation. He used his knowledge of the streets and his ability to blend in to get close to the workers at the site, piecing together the puzzle bit by bit. But the closer they got to the truth, the more dangerous things became. Alex noticed unfamiliar cars parked near his building, strangers watching him from a distance. He knew they were being followed, but he didn't let it deter him. One night, as Alex was returning home, he was confronted by one of the men from the warehouse. The man grabbed him by the collar, slamming him against a wall. "You should have stayed out of this, kid," the man growled. "Now it's too late." But Alex wasn't going down without a fight. Using the self-defense tricks he'd learned on the streets, he kicked the man's shin and twisted out of his grip, running as fast as he could. His heart pounded, but his resolve only grew stronger. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for Emma, for Malone, and for everyone who deserved justice. Alex burst through the door of their apartment, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Emma looked up from her drawings, startled. "Alex, what's wrong?" "Nothing," Alex lied, forcing a calm expression as he locked the door and slid the chain into place. "Just had to run back." "Don't worry about it." Emma frowned, her sharp eyes studying him, but she didn't press. Alex ruffled her hair and walked to the kitchen, trying to collect his thoughts. He was in over his head, but there was no turning back now. He had to finish what he'd started, for Emma, for Malone, and for everyone suffering at the hands of these criminals. The next day, Alex met Ryan Caldwell in a secure location, a small, nondescript office in the outskirts of the city. Ryan's face was grim as Alex recounted the previous night's attack. "They're on to you," Ryan said, his voice tight with worry. "You need to lay low." "I can't," Alex replied firmly. "We're close to the truth. If I stop now, everything we've done will be for nothing." Ryan looked at him, a mixture of admiration and concern in his eyes. "You're brave, Alex. Too brave for your own good. But if you're determined to see this through, we'll do it together." Alex nodded. "What's the next move?" Ryan spread out a map of the city on the table. "This warehouse," he said, pointing to a location near the river. "It's their main hub. If we can get inside and document what they're moving, we'll have the proof we need to shut them down." Alex studied the map, his mind racing. "I know the area. I can get in, but I'll need a way to take pictures without being noticed." Ryan reached into his bag and handed Alex a small, discreet camera. "Take this. And Alex, be careful. These people won't hesitate to hurt you if they catch you." That night, Alex made his way to the warehouse. The area was quiet. The only sounds the distant rumble of trucks and the lapping of water against the docks. Alex stuck to the shadows, his small frame making it easy for him to slip through gaps in the fences and avoid the guards patrolling the perimeter. Inside, the warehouse was a hive of activity. Men moved crates, marked with foreign logos, their faces grim and focused. Alex hid behind a stack of boxes, his heart pounding as he snapped photo after photo. He captured images of weapons, bags of what looked like drugs, and shipping documents with names and dates. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the warehouse. Alex froze, his breath catching in his throat. One of the guards shouted, and the men began to search the area. Alex knew he had only seconds to escape. Clutching the camera, he darted toward the exit, his footsteps silent against the concrete floor. But just as he reached the door, a hand grabbed his arm, yanking him back. "Well, well," a deep voice sneered. "What do we have here?" Alex twisted and kicked, but the man's grip was like iron. "Let me go," he shouted, panic rising in his chest. "You've been snooping where you don't belong, kid." The man growled, dragging Alex toward the center of the warehouse. The other workers gathered around, their faces cold and unforgiving. "Who sent you?" the man demanded, shaking Alex roughly. "No one," Alex lied, his mind racing. I thought there might be something valuable here." The man laughed, a cruel sound. "You think we're stupid? We know who you are. You're the kid working with Caldwell." Alex's stomach dropped. They knew everything. Before the man could say more, a deafening crash came from the entrance. The guards turned, startled, as a group of men in tactical gear stormed in, shouting commands. "FBI! Everyone on the ground!" Chaos erupted. The workers scattered, some trying to flee while others fought back. Alex seized the moment, wrenching free from his captor and bolting toward the nearest exit. He didn't stop running until he was far from the warehouse, his lungs burning and his legs trembling. The next morning, Alex met Ryan at the cafe. He handed over the camera, his face pale but determined. "I got everything. Pictures, documents. It's all there." Ryan looked at him, pride shining in his eyes. "You did it, Alex. You gave us exactly what we needed to take them down." "What about Malone?" Alex asked. "And the others?" "The FBI raided the warehouse last night," Ryan said. "They've arrested most of the key players and they're working on finding the rest. Malone, he's safe. They're putting him in protective custody." Alex let out a breath he didn't realize had been holding. For the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of hope. In the weeks that followed, life began to change for Alex and Emma. Ryan kept his promise, ensuring they had a safe place to live and enrolling Emma in a good school. Alex, meanwhile, continued working with Ryan, using his skills to help others in need. One evening, as Alex sat on the balcony of their new apartment, Emma joined him, a smile on her face. "Do you think we'll be okay now, Alex?" Alex wrapped an arm around her shoulders, looking out at the city lights. "Yeah, Em, I think we will." And for the first time in a long time, he believed it. The end.